solid theory. Done. So, here, I would like to briefly introduce the main part of the course, starting with Chapter 9, which is a brief introduction to the structure and relationship of shadows.
Okay, that's something I really have problems with.
The goal of this chapter is to help you develop a sense of why shadows look the way they do because they are three-dimensional. But first, let's look at some common mistakes. Here, the shadows on the arms don't connect naturally, and the shadows on the face are expressed in a uniform way. With shading like this, there is light and shadow, but it's hard to tell how it looks in 3 dimensions. Done. Many people probably end up shading like this. When adding shadows, it's important to be aware that you are expressing a 3-dimensional structure through the shadows. Illustrations are drawn on a flat canvas, but people who see them infer the 3-dimensional structure through the shape of the shadows.
Okay.
So, Professor Renaud explains the structure for expressing shadows in 3 dimensions by dividing it into 3 properties. These 3 structures are applied not only to the human body, but also to things like the shape of clothing. So, let's look at these 3 properties one by one. First is the size of the structure. In simple terms, you can think of it as the size of a single surface. Done. The larger the size of this surface, the larger the shadow will be.
The larger the larger the go back.
A 3 minute through the shadows. Illustrations are drawn on a flat canvas, but people who see them infer the 3-dimensional
Sorry about that,
structure
guys.
through
I
the
don't know
shape
what
of the
happened.
shadow.
YouTube had it just fucked right off. I don't know what that was about. It does that once in a while, very rarely, but like that's a thing that happens sometimes. I'm sorry about that. So yeah. It'll just freeze and stop working.
So, Professor Renaud explains the structure for expressing shadows in 3 dimensions by dividing it into 3 properties. These 3 structures are applied not only to the human body, but also to things like the shape of clothing. So, let's look at these 3 properties one by one. First is the size of the structure. In simple terms, you can think of it as the size of a single surface. Done. The larger the size of this surface, the larger the shadow will be.
The larger the size of the surface. Actually, can I click for this? I think I don't have it on.
For example, if you look at each of the abdominal muscles in this picture, the size of the surface that bends based on the boundary is quite small. In comparison,
So the shadows here, we have a little shadow here, lights here, light, mid-light, dark, dark, mid-light, shine.
The size of the surface that bends in the large chest is larger than the abdominal muscles. And in the picture of the back on the far right, you can see that there is a fairly large surface based on the shoulder blade.
Okay.
Done. It goes without saying that the larger the size of a single surface, the larger the shadow, and the smaller the size of a single surface, the smaller the shadow. When drawing shadows, it is important to first be aware of the size of the surface of the structure and cast shadows
so I
accordingly.
thought it was acting goofy. No, it's not your computer, it was my
The second is the depth of the structure. What I mean by the depth of the structure is that it is a state in which the bent concave part is deeply inward. Using the human body as an example, the collarbone area has a shallow slope and does not cast a very strong shadow.
Okay, it has a shallow slope, but Shadow slope, but does not cast a very strong shadow. Interesting. Okay.
In contrast, the area under a woman's chest has a deep bend, so the shadow is also strong. Furthermore, the belly button on the far right is at such a deep angle that it receives almost no light. Areas like this are expressed as occlusion shadows.
Okay.
In other words, the deeper the structure or the higher the protrusion, the darker the shadow of that structure will be. This is something you need to consider when deciding on the tone of the shadow. And finally, there's the freshness or sharpness of the structure. This means gradualness or sharpness. The sharper the angle of the bend, the clearer the boundary of the shadow. But for example, in the case of clothing made of hard materials or the boundary of the muscles in a man's upper body, the boundary between the areas where light hits and the areas where it doesn't is clearly visible. Conversely, the boundary between the stomach area of a woman or clothing made of soft materials, the boundary of the shadow will appear blurred. This freshness is difficult to express in anime painting, but think of it as a necessary element for expressing the gentleness and feel of the structure in 3 dimensions. Simply put, the sharper the change in structure, the clearer the distinction between light and dark. Conversely, in cases where the surface transitions gradually, such as in the case of a reversible type of painting, the boundary between light and dark will be softly connected with a gradient. The teacher says that these 3 properties should be considered as much as possible in order to create 3-dimensional shadows. In other words, if you describe the size of the shadow, the boundary, and the tone, you can easily create 3-dimensional shadows. Done. Here we only looked at the initial introduction, but this course explains these 3 properties in a more understandable way.
I might get this course.
Furthermore, when creating shadows, the order in which you should draw them is also an important point. So if you want to know more about this, please check out the main course.
I might get it.
This course is recommended for those who always get confused when drawing shadows and want to know the rules for shadows. The second good thing about this course is that you can learn the theoretical rules for clothing shadows. Many of you may be troubled by the fact that you always draw the shadows without thinking, which ends up making your illustrations look unnatural. Done. At first glance, the way the shadows are drawn in clothing changes completely depending on the pose, so it may be difficult to understand how to understand them, but there are actually rules for how the shadows are drawn.
Okay.
In this lecture by Professor Renaud, he explains the laws of wrinkles in a way that is easy to understand even for beginners, so I would like to introduce a little bit from the main part of the lecture. Chapter 14 of this book explains why wrinkles form in clothing based on structural principles. First, you can think of wrinkles as basically the state in which the cloth is folded.
Yeah.
And for wrinkles to form in clothing, 3 structural elements are required. The first is the contact point, the second is space, and the third is the direction of force. First, the first contact point, the part written in light blue here is the place where the cloth is touching the object. For example, it is the part where the cloth is in close contact with the human body or an object, and is usually the reference point where wrinkles begin and end. If the cloth is in stable contact with the surface, as in this picture, wrinkles will not occur. Conversely, the part written in pink is the space where the cloth and the object are not in contact. This part where there is no contact is the space where wrinkles are likely to form. And the direction written in green. This is the direction of force. It is the direction of the force acting on the object, or gravity. To summarize simply, the parts of the fabric that are touching the object do not wrinkle, while the parts of the fabric that are not touching the object wrinkle in the direction of the force.
It's called high channel. The channel's called high channel. HIDE space channel. That's what that is.
The unevenness of the fabric in the direction of the force is what is called wrinkle. What this means is that, for example, if the clothing is tightly fitted, there are more parts that touch the skin and less empty space that is not touching the skin, so the area where wrinkles form in the fabric is smaller. Conversely, if the clothing is loose-fitting, the area that touches the skin is smaller and the open space is larger, so the area where wrinkles form in the fabric is larger. When there are wrinkles in the clothing, it means that there is space inside it, and the smaller that space is, the tighter the clothing is, the smaller and tighter the wrinkles will be. And the larger the space that is not touching the skin, the larger the wrinkles will be and the wider the sensation will be. In this illustration, the pink parts are the parts that are not touching the skin and where wrinkles...
The channel is called hide channel. HIDE space channel. Like literally you're going to hide somewhere. It's called hide channel. If you still don't believe me, it's right here. I don't know if you can see it. It says it here. Actually, this is what the channel looks like. For those who are trying to learn, it's called high channel. There you go. Yeah.
Can be written. The teacher says that through these differences, the three-dimensionality of the object underneath the fabric can be shown in a joint way. For example, the chest area may start to wrinkle from the bottom, but this is an expression of the object that is touching the fabric underneath. So, in this video, I can only introduce one of the three rules of the letter she, but as you can see, the rules for writing she are explained in a very easy to understand manner, and the way to write she is also taught in a practical way through examples.
Yeah, no problem.
So if you are not good at writing she for clothes, or if you want to learn the rules of she for clothes thoroughly, I would definitely recommend watching the main course. The third good thing about this course is that you can learn common mistakes and their correct answers through real examples. I think there are some of you who have been taught how to write theoretically, but don't know how to actually reflect what you have learned in your own drawings. In this course, after the theoretical drawing, there is a chapter on correcting self and lineup illustrations for each section, and you can learn through corrections common mistakes in illustrations and how to reflect what you have learned in the drawing, which I found to be very easy to understand. For example, in section 2, students learn how to express light and dark while understanding the structure, but after the drawing, they are given examples of illustrations by the students to help them learn about mistakes in the drawing and how to understand the structure. Done. For example, in this illustration, the shadow cast by the head is not drawn very well, and the shadow under the chest does not capture the three-dimensional structure, indicating that students are not able to draw shadows without first understanding the structure.
Okay.
Done.
Wait, go back.
Students takes in the drawing and how to understand the structure. Done. For example, in this illustration, the shadow cast by the head is not drawn very well, and the shadow under the chest does not capture the three-dimensional structure, indicating that students are not able to draw shadows without first understanding the structure. Done. In such cases, the teacher says that it is good to draw in a sequence, such as dividing the surface into simple shapes like this and gradually drawing the finer details from there. By learning using actual illustrations as the subject matter, students are able to learn practically the points to keep in mind when drawing and how to proceed, which I found to be very easy to understand. I also think that another strength of Coloso's account is that familiar teachers show us the entire process of drawing an illustration until it is completed. When it comes to illustration, each person has completely different areas of difficulty, so I think that showing you all the steps in this way will give you a clue to solving your problems, no matter what area you're struggling with. The main part of the course provides thorough explanations as you go along, so if you're interested, please check it out. This course is recommended for those who want to learn practical ways to use the tool in conjunction with the drawing. So, this time I've shared my impressions of taking Illustrator Rhino's course on light and dark expression and three-dimensional modeling, starting with shadows that you draw with confidence rather than feeling. What did you think? As you've seen, Coloso's courses are packed with useful information, so I'm sure some of you are interested, but there are some things that you may be worried about before purchasing an account. For example, I think you might be concerned about the expiration date for watching the videos. Some other paid courses have a viewing deadline, and with those sites, you might buy an account but then get busy and not be able to watch the course until the viewing deadline has passed, leaving you with no money to waste. However, with Coloso's account, once you've purchased a course, you can watch it indefinitely and as many times as you want. This means that even if you buy an account but don't have much time, you can still set aside a block of time later and watch it all at once, which is a relief. Another concern is the volume of the course, but Coloso's courses consist of around 20 to 30 videos per course, which adds up to around 20 hours of content. The professionals who are currently in the spotlight spend this much time teaching you thoroughly, so I think the content is very good. Each course costs around 20,000 yen, but considering that you can learn 20 hours of professional know-how from time to time, I think it's worth buying. If you're interested in Coloso's courses after watching this video, there's a link in the description below the title.
I think 20,000 yen, I think is just $200.
So please check it out.
If I remember
For
right.
a limited time, we are distributing great coupons to channel subscribers. In addition to the coupons that can be used for the courses introduced this time, there are also coupons that can be used for any course, and some that are available in English. If there is a course that interests you, please use the coupons to take it.
I think it's $200, if I remember right. I think 2,000 yen means $200 in American money. Oh shit, no, I'm lying. It's $12. My god, what the fuck? Is that right? 2,000 yen to USD. Yeah, I'm definitely getting that course. I'm gonna put that off. Okay. I can do one more video and then we'll jump out of here.
Sam Raimi's canceled Spider-Man 4 might actually get made, and if it does, we're gonna lose our freaking minds.
Look, let me break this all down for you guys.
Ever since this movie came out, everyone has been begging for either an Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man 3, because last time we seen the guy, we seen him lose his babe, and his franchise got canceled. I mean, this guy got the shaft. Can we give him one movie where something good happens to him, for Christ's sake?
I lost Gwen. She was my MJ.
Or a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4 that focuses on an old Peter Parker who's a dad and he's struggling, kind of how like Wolverine was in Logan. And even though the whole world has been begging for these movies and they would probably make billions of dollars, Sony said, you know what, I got a better idea. Let's make a Spider-Man universe without any Spider-Man in it at all, and let's make super horrible garbage movies about all of his villains. That's what you guys want, right? Here you go. Obviously that didn't work out for them and the whole Sony Spider universe got canceled. But still,
if you're looking
Sony
for a
hasn't
drawing,
confirmed
if that's what you're actually looking for you to get a drawing commission. Where is it? You gotta send one of these, or two of these, or one of this. So if that's what you're looking for. No problem. No problem, dude. That is up to you. Clips do you paint? So, well, I won't get you much of anything, but I only do commissions for those three. But if you want to send one, you can. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine.
said anything about them making a movie with Tobey or Andrew anytime soon. But guys, I think there's hope. Because my boy Mattson Tomlin, the co-writer of The Batman and The Batman 2, has said publicly that he's been trying to reach out to Sam Raimi about a Spider-Man 4 script that he's been working on. And he's already talked about this a couple of times this year. Not only that, but a couple of days later after this news broke out, my boy Soup's got an interview with Kirsten Dunst and Channing Tatum, and he asked her this.
I don't know if you saw, but fans have been going crazy because writer-producer Mattson Tomlin, who is responsible for the Batman films and Game of Thrones, he recently came out and said that a dream film for him would be a Spider-Man 4 where Peter and MJ have a kid.
Yeah, that would be cool, right? I mean, I don't know if the fans are into it. I feel like that is an interesting movie, right?
Oh, believe me, Kirsten, we are so into it. And a few years ago, in an interview for Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange movie, this is what he said when he was asked about returning to make another Spider-Man movie.
He recently expressed interest in returning to that particular franchise.
You know what? If you drop a disco, I'll just give you a chibi head. I'll draw a little chibi head.
As Spider-Man 4, you said you'd be up for it.
I didn't think it was possible, but after jumping
I use
back in
XP
with the
Pen
multiverse, I
E20.
realized that anything is possible now.
XP Pen.
So I'm completely open to it.
But
E20 tablet.
how did we even get to this point where we had two canceled Spider-Man franchises to us now might having three separate Spider-Men in their own movies? Stan Lee sells the right to make a movie about Spider-Man to the studios, and they tried making this movie for years. With hundreds of people almost getting the part, like a James Cameron-made Leonardo DiCaprio Spider-Man movie. Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Scooby-Doo movies was almost Spider-Man. The late, great Heath Ledger, who plays the Joker in The Dark Knight, was supposed to be Spider-Man. And even Jake Gyllenhaal, who showed up in a
Go back. What?
Stone, for Christ's sake.
I lost Gwen.
No, go
It was
back.
kind of a flop. A lot of fans at the jump to make a Sam Raimi's was at one point, and even Jake Ledger, who plays the Joker in the almost Spider-Man, the late great Heath Ledger, who plays
The play Spider-Man? What the fuck? What do you use for drawing tablet? Long have you been asking how long? I've been drawing since I was 6. I'm 30 now. I didn't take this job seriously until I was 23, 24. But I was drawing all my life, though.
The Joker in The Dark Knight was supposed to be Spider-Man, and even Jake Gyllenhaal, who showed up in a Spider-Man movie as Mysterio, was at one point supposed to be Spider-Man. But somehow, thank the Lord, we got Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and I think it has something to do with this sick test footage he made for the movie.
See you, chump.
So in 2002, with Sam Raimi directing, Tobey as Spider-Man, and Danny Elfman on the soundtrack, we got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And honestly, the boys cooked up one of the best superhero trilogies of all time. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is still considered to be one of, if not the best superhero movie ever made.
The
But
fighting
then
on the train will never get old.
something happened.
That fight on
They
the
made
train was
Spider-Man 3, and
insane.
even though it made money in the box office, critically, it was kind of a flop. A lot of fans at the time were not happy with this movie, and honestly, Sam Raimi wasn't happy about this movie at all himself. He was devastated about it, and he blamed all the film's failures on the studio. And deep down, he knew if he had the chance to make the movie that he wanted to make, it would have been great. And honestly, I think he's right, because when I look back at Spider-Man 3, the problem with that movie is that there's just too
many
much going on.
shit
If
going
that
on,
movie
yes!
just focused on James Franco, get rid of Venom, get rid of Sandman, get rid of all of those other villains. Just focus on James Franco's Goblin.
I
It
post
probably
on
would have been a
everything. I stream on
masterpiece.
everywhere.
Think about it, those 3 movies all led to that encounter. Peter versus Harry. It's what it's all been
Link in the
cooking
bio
up
if you
and
want
leading
to check
up
it for
But the
yourself.
studios insisted on multiple villains being in the movie, like Venom and Sandman. Honestly, the movie is just overstuffed and it never has a chance to breathe. And just the way they made Toby get the black suit and be a bad guy was just freaking horrible. It sucked. It was laughable how bad it was.
Leave me alone.
Give me rent. You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
So when Sam Raimi got a chance to make another Spider-Man movie, he wanted it to be great. And that's exactly what he set out to do, make the best Spider-Man movie he's ever made.
Prepare you to jump back into the giant machinery of doing a 4th movie?
Yeah, it's great. There are certain dynamics and relationships that have continuity. You know, Sam, I love collaborating with him. How do we press this? How do we make it more exciting, more fun? How do we evolve the character and make it a rich story? I have fun with those movies. I really do, you know?
But then guess what happened? Sony and the studio start interfering with his project again. And at this point, Sam Raimi was just fed up. So he backed out of the project. And instead of finding a new director, they just completely canceled and scrapped Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But over the years, a bunch of mock-ups and animations and draft scripts came out for what this movie could have been. And it's just freaking heartbreaking. I mean, just this freaking animatic of Spider-Man and Vulture having a battle in New York looked unbelievable. And it would have featured John Malkovich as the Vulture, Anne Hathaway as Black Cat. And reportedly, the movie would have been about Peter Parker and Mary Jane's relationship failing, leading to their breakup, and how he pursues a relationship with Felicia Hardy. With the film rumored to end with Peter losing his powers on a dark and regretful note. And if you really look into this and read about what this movie could have been, it's an absolute tragedy that we didn't get it. A few years later, they rebooted Spider-Man and we got Mark Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man. And I remember at the time these movies came out, everyone was pissed off about it because Andrew Garfield was like too slick and he made Peter Parker like sharp and cool.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I would hate for Anne Hathaway to be Black Cat. She's not that pretty. I'm sorry, I can't. She's an okay actor, but I would pick someone else, like someone completely different. I don't know why people was like casting this bitch. She was not that great. No.
And everyone's main complaint
I
was
would
that
pick
he
someone
wasn't
else.
dorky enough, he wasn't nerdy enough, he was like too cool of a guy. And you know what? Sure, maybe he wasn't the best Peter Parker, but when this man was in costume as Spider-Man, he really was Spider-Man. Like, he was so comic accurate with his quips and the way he talked and the way he acted in the suit was just
Yes,
incredible.
I'm not gonna lie. As much as I love Toby, he's the OG Spider-Man for me. But like, if we're talking about comic book accurate looking of the suit in general, I would say it's like three elements is weird because like in the first Spider-Man, it's like Toby's portrayal of Spider-Man was, I believe it was pretty spot on nerdy wise, like him being very passive. And then with Andrew Garfield, him in the suit looks more comic accurate, especially the Amazing Spider-Man look, that lanky look, the way he looks. I feel like he's the best looking Spider-Man out of the 3. And then when Tom Holland, it's more like he's young. You know what I'm saying? Like he's much younger between the two. So like that kind, like each element has one thing of what is needed to make Peter. So you could have had that. And then I guess I think they overdo it with Tom Holland, with him being super nerdy and just always constantly in some bullshit thing where people just kind of like, not only just walk all over him, but just like, it's overplayed like too much. Like he's super friendly all the time. And I get it, that's what Peter's supposed to be, but it feels more realistic with Tobey Maguire, because when people step over like Peter, he's not trying to like people please them. He's just trying to be passive and get the fuck out of there. That's usually the that's more believable than anything, especially if they're being annoying or being an asshole. But when it comes to the look of the Spider-Man, out of the three, I believe the best looking one is probably Andrew Garfield because he looks like the comic book accurate version of the Spider-Man in the suit.
Lord, I know how to help you. I know the grid specs. I'm sure.
So sure, a lot of us were just probably butthurt that Toby wasn't Spider-Man anymore, but looking back on these movies, I can honestly say Andrew Garfield was an amazing Spider-Man.
He said it! He said it!
And before it got canceled, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 would have featured Richard Parker, Peter Parker's dad, who turns out it was not dead and just disappeared for a while, so the movie would have focused on him explaining that. It also would have formed the Sinister Six and likely incorporate elements of the Clone Saga, with a potential Gwen Stacy clone
Toby, my first Spider-Man, but...
Another idea they
let me see. Toby, my first Spider-Man, but now... Oh, no, I just love watching draw... Oh, okay. Hey, bro. $12. Yeah, $12. Okay, Toby is my first Spider, but now I think my best Miles Morales animation. Animation-wise, Miles Morales... Okay, this is how it goes. This is how it works. So, for Toby, it's more comic book accurate based on Peter's behavior as Peter outside the suit. In the suit, I would say Andrew Garfield. Animation-wise, Miles Morales. And then... being a kid and being young and not knowing what to do, Tom Holland. They all have elements. Maybe not Miles because that's animation, so let's move Miles out there. But all three of the original Spider-Mans right now, they have each element of what the comic book accuracy of it. If they were to add all those three things at once, you would have had a perfect Peter. I think that would make sense. So.
Had was the return of Norman Osborn, but just as a floating head, and they wanted to introduce Miles Morales for the first time ever. But then again, something happened. I don't know who Andrew Garfield pissed off at Sony or what happened there, but somehow or another, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man franchise got canceled, and they decided to reboot it again, but this time, Marvel Studios was finally in control of Spider-Man. And when they revealed him in this trailer, everyone went freaking nuts.
Hey everyone.
Because at this time, Tom Holland was really young and we were finally getting an age-accurate Peter Parker. We even got this sick, unseen raised webbing suit that they didn't use and replaced entirely with CGI, which I can't stand that they did, but I know that's how Marvel Studios operates. They use a lot of CGI, so whatever. And after Civil War, a few years later, we got Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie with Spider-Man Homecoming. And look, I absolutely love the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Don't get me wrong, but they're not great Spider-Man movies. They're great MCU movies. Because honestly, Spider-Man Homecoming is just Iron Man's side quest. Spider-Man Far From Home, he's not even in New York. The guy's just hanging out in Europe with his friends for the whole movie. And
yeah, you're not wrong. He's not wrong. It's just Iron Man's side quest, or just, Iron Man's sidekick on his side quest. it is what it is. He's not lying.
Spider-Man No Way Home had so many other major stars, cameos, and supporting roles that it wasn't even his movie anymore. But at least at the very end of Spider-Man No Way Home, they finally set us up a grounded, normal Peter Parker story. And I know they're absolutely cooking right now with Spider-Man Brand New Day, but that's another story. Every Spider-Man fan you can imagine has been begging for Sony to make one movie. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 or Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3. So if somehow anyone from Sony is watching this video, there's a reason why. Jesus sent you here. The Lord sent you here. You need to make one of these movies. We're literally begging you for it, and it's an easy couple of $1 billion. And look, Sony, if you're worried about having multiple Spider-Man in the box office at the same time will hurt you somehow revenue-wise, just know that James Gunn is about to have 2 separate Batmans in his DCU, and you already made a bunch of
how the fuck is that going to... Bro, how the fuck is that going to hurt you? Like, think that to yourself. How there's 3 different Spider-Man movies that are going to hurt you? You made 5 different Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man, and that hurts you. You're stupid if you think 3 different Spider-Man movies that people was begging for. You know what I'm saying? That shit's... Like, come on. I think 3 Spider-Man movies coming out is a great idea because it ties up loose ends. That's crazy. They put like 5 different Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man and thought that was a good idea, and they flopped. So having 3 different Spider-Man movies that people are asking for, one an MCU movie and one Sam Raimi movies and the other one. So that is what it is. So that's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
Spider-Man multiversal
My
movies. So
God.
we get it. We understand there's different dimensions, but
That's
you gotta
crazy.
combine them together. Just use that to your advantage. Tell stories
Yeah,
in
just
separate universes.
yeah.
and we
You
will
can just say
show
it's a
up for them,
multiverse
I
thing. That's all you have to
promise.
say.
But if you're not
Most
Sony
people
and you
run
made
with it
all the way
anyway.
to the end of this video, I just want to thank
Don't
my
even matter.
sponsor, nobody. I don't got a sponsor. This is a brand new channel, but I'm giving away a PS5 or the game console of your choice. All you got to do is hype up this
That's
video,
crazy.
take a screenshot of it, follow and send that screenshot to me on Twitter, and that's it. I'll be posting the winner here and on Twitter. But again, this is a new channel, so do me a favor. Don't like this video. Don't subscribe. Take care. God bless.
You did? The actor? Or like the comic book character? That's crazy. Let me see. What the fuck happened to Unreal Engine?
Back in the mid-2000s, you didn't even have to know what Unreal Engine was. You just
Right.
knew the games felt good. Gears of War, BioShock, Mass Effect 2, those were all Unreal Engine 3. And they didn't just look great for the time. They played smooth. No weird hitching, no crashing mid-cutscene, no jank that pulled you out of the experience. Just solid movement, stable frame rates, and games that felt like they were built on purpose. The engine didn't get in the way. In fact, you barely noticed it was there. And that's kind of the point. You see, Unreal had this reputation, not just for being powerful, but for being reliable. Studios trusted it, and players didn't have to think about it. And that's when you know the tech is doing its job. Then, in 2014, Epic did something huge. They dropped Unreal Engine 4 and made it free. Not a trial, not some stripped down version.
I thought the actor
full
who
engine.
plays Spider-Man
Zero
in
cost
the
up
first
front,
movie
just
was
5%
cute.
if
Oh,
the game
Toby?
made money. And
Oh,
that
okay.
changed everything. Now, indie devs suddenly had access to the same tools as the big studios. And it didn't take long for people to start doing some crazy stuff with it. Rocket League was made by a team of 10. PUBG started as a mod and became a global phenomenon. Fortnite switched to Battle Royale, ran on Unreal Engine 4, and kind of took over the world. These weren't just cool indie projects, they were massive hits. But here's the thing, they also worked. Rocket League was hitting 60 FPS on the PS4 at launch. PUBG was rough, sure, but it wasn't the engine's fault, at least not all the time. And Fortnite, it scaled from iPhones to high-end PCs without breaking. It felt like the engine had your back, and that's the Unreal I came to trust. Maybe you did too. So when Epic showed off Unreal Engine 5 in 2020 and dropped that Lumen in the land of net.
I feel like Tom Holland has progressed very quick thanks to Iron Man. I feel like he has gotten an upgrade, of course. This is my opinion. Oh yeah, he got an upgrade, true. But then again, it's like he comes off as more like Iron Man's like sidekick than Spider-Man himself. But he's a kid, so like it kind of makes sense why they wrote it that way. You know what I'm saying? So I can see why you can say that. Why you probably look at it that way. Like, yeah, he gets a bunch of upgrades and this, that, and a third, but after a while, you kind of just look at him as Iron Man's, like, I don't want to say protege, but just sidekick, per se. And I think it was really dumb on him to try to give, like, okay. So it was really stupid on the behalf, like, when they written Spider-Man, or Tom Holland's Spider-Man, to give the glasses to what's-his-face because he thought he was a better suit for it. I'm like, bro, didn't you say you was missing Tony on a constant? Wouldn't you keep the thing that you have left of him as a form of, like, you know, like a parting gift that he gave you and try to work with it as best as possible? Why would you give it to a stranger? And that stranger end up using that shit against you? That was really stupid on his behalf. It made no sense, but, you know.
And I
just because he felt a little depressed, that shit was stupid.
In real time on
but that
PS5,
probably shows the impulsiveness of him being young, so that also plays into that as well.
I mean, look at it. It looks amazing. But more than that, it felt like almost like a promise. No more baking lights, no more stressing over poly counts. You focus on creativity, Epic said, and we'll handle tech. It didn't just feel like another update. It felt more like a full reset. A leap forward. This isn't just a new engine. They are pitching the future. And then, in 2021, they doubled down with The Matrix Awakens, which is a fully walkable open world, real-time lighting, cinematic facial animation, and thousands of AI cars, all running live on a PlayStation 5. No pre-rendering, no smoke and mirrors. It looked like the real deal. And for a second, it felt like everyone believed again. We were all excited about it. We could have...
Hey, Martinez, tell me how ice tastes.
and wait to see what the next thing that Epic was going to do. Ark Survival Ascendant, Jedi Survivor, Lords of the Fallen, the day before. And yeah, they looked amazing. But something felt off. The stutters, the shaders compiling mid-boss fight, the traversal hitching, it was all back. Only now it was happening in $70 games. Instead of feeling next gen, the engine felt like it was barely holding things together. So I started digging. I went back through the tech talks, post-mortems, patch notes, anything I could find that might explain the disconnect between the promise and the reality. And what I found was complicated, because it's
Honestly,
not just that UE5 is hard to use.
Honestly, I had a lot of fun watching all of them. Yeah, they're fun to watch. They're Spider-Man movies. They're. I'm not gonna lie. Spider-Man movies, whether you don't like Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, they're entertaining to watch. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to technically like the character. You don't have to like the portrayal. You don't even have to like the actor. You just can just like the overall Spider-Man mythos, or just watching Spider-Man in action is fun. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to like Tobey Maguire. You have to at least admit the fight scene. Like, if you have to choose between the fight scene with Tobey Maguire against Andrew Garfield versus the lizard, I forgot his name, Dr. Connors, versus Tobey Maguire versus Doc Ock. Everyone's gonna pick the Doc Ock scene. That is fun to watch. That is that's a roller coaster of fun. Even if you've seen it 1,000 times, it's still fun to watch.
And it's not just
it's not like, don't get me wrong, the fight between Andrew Garfield and Dr. Connors was entertaining, but it's not as entertaining as that of, like, you know, as the train fight.
Are doing it wrong. There are some real technical leaps here, and real issues too. Some people say Unreal Engine 5 is ahead of its time. Others say it's actively ruining games. So today, we're digging into one of the biggest questions in gaming history. What happened to Unreal Engine 5? By the way, if you're into deep dives on game tech, animation, and the chaos of modern game design and the stories all around this space, hit subscribe. It helps with the algorithm, and yeah, I like watching the number go up. We are so close to 500,000 subs, and it would be cool to have you along for the ride. Now, Unreal Engine 5 didn't just add a few cool new features. It quietly flipped the entire playbook. At first glance, it looked like a normal upgrade. Better graphics, new tools, faster rendering. But once I started digging, it felt like Epic had pulled the foundation out from under everything. Unreal Engine 3 and Unreal Engine 4 were upgrades. You had to learn some new tricks, sure, but the core stuff still worked. You could bring your old pipeline, your optimization logic, your LODs, your streaming systems. It was an evolution, but Unreal Engine 5, it broke things people didn't expect to be breakable. The moment a studio switched over, they weren't just using a new engine, they were rewriting how their entire game got made. Lighting was rethought from the ground up. Polycounts, they're practically irrelevant now, which meant old asset workflows don't apply. And level streaming, which is something that a lot of teams had custom-built solutions for, gone, replaced. Whether it made sense for a project or not. Even studios that had been working in Unreal for years suddenly felt like they were back at square one. Now, big studios, they could adapt. They had the engineers, the tooling teams, the budget for trial and error. They could afford to rebuild pipelines and throw an R&D department at it for 6 months. But smaller teams, for them, Unreal Engine 5 wasn't just powerful. It was overwhelming. You weren't just learning how to use it. You were trying to figure out what assumptions Epic had already made for you. And here's the thing most players never see. A lot of this is shipped without clear documentation. The features were there, the promise was real, but no one was standing next to you going, hey, don't do it that way. That'll break everything. And that is where the cracks started to show. Nanite said, just drop in your full resolution assets. The engine will handle it. But it didn't exactly warn you that some topology, like dense triangles, bad UVs, could tank performance if you weren't careful. Lumen was Unreal's big lighting reset. No baking, no real-time global illumination, real reflections, right? But good luck if your game uses fog, glass, or emissives. That stuff still needs workarounds, and most devs didn't know that until their lighting looked off and they had no idea why. And world partition, it sounded like magic. We'll stream your open world for you. But then it misjudged a loading zone, which it absolutely did all the time. You'd get massive traversal hitches, sometimes right in the middle of a boss fight. That's what took me a while to realize. Maybe these games weren't broken just because Unreal Engine 5 didn't work. Maybe they were broken because the old instincts didn't apply anymore, and the engine,
it didn't wait for anyone to catch up. One of the biggest promises Epic made with Unreal Engine 5 was
I'm
that
gonna pause it from here. I know this is a big nothing burger hearing this. All right, I'm gonna end it from here. I'm actually gonna play some video games because I feel I want to get some urges out. So I'll let you guys go. We'll continue this tomorrow. I think we're gonna finish this. This is gonna be tomorrow. Will pretty much be the last day. Me finishing up all this. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop from here. Have a great night for those who came in for the art stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go play video games. We're gonna stream that and stuff. I might stream it on TikTok if TikTok is low. What? And remember the Jolly Fat Hobo watch? Wait, what about? Wait, what? What is that about? What the hell? I didn't see that coming. What does that mean? Thank you. So we're going to go and play a game. I don't know if I'm gonna just play it on TikTok, but we'll see. If I do, you'll know. If I'm not, I'm on YouTube as well. So with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. There, guys. Well, y'all.